Hello my friends, welcome to the Commander's Crypt. I've got an awesome video for you guys today. So I was doing some reading the other day and some research, and I kind of saw a couple of different players that were new to the game talking about how they would watch other tables and be intimidated by the power level of the decks that the players were playing, and were maybe afraid or intimidated to get in and play. And what I wanted to do today is talk about some very cheap but powerful and easy to pilot decks that new players can play and run with the best of them. So that's what we're going to do today. Today we're going to talk about the 10 very powerful decks new players should get. So without further ado, we will get into it. One of the decks that I would recommend, now this is all about different play styles too. What I've done is I have brought in 10 decks to talk about today that have different play styles, so to match maybe a new player's play style as well that's still very strong. So we'll have aggro beats, we'll have loops, we'll have that kind of stuff depending on what the new player likes. So without further ado, we will get into it. The first deck, in my humble opinion, that would be very good for new players would be the Kitt, Kanto, Mayhem, Diva deck. The Cabaret Cacophony. And go check out my deck tech on that. That's another thing we're going to do too, is with all these decks, we're going to talk about them briefly, but I've got a deck tech for just about every one of these decks. So if you want to go and watch something on it that's even more in depth, there you go. So Kitt, Kanto, Mayhem, Diva, she's Naya. That's white, green, red in the business. And one, it says she's a legendary creature, a cat bard druid. When Kitt Kanto enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. At the beginning of combat on each player's turn, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. When you do, target creature that player controls gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Goad that creature. Okay, so with that precon, that had a lot of goading, used the goad mechanic a lot. So if you're into that, that's what she does. It's a very, very good deck for a lot of reasons. It makes a lot of tokens, and it goads your opponent's creatures. But then also, if you want to, you could get another commander and put it in front of that deck, and that would be Jetmir, Nexus of Revels. Same deck, he's Naya and 1, same casting cost as Kitt Kanto, and he's a legendary creature, a cat demon. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. His text box continues to say creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. Creatures you control also get +1 and 0 and have double strike as long as you control 9 or more creatures. So what I'm getting at is this. If you're a new player and you want to have a strong deck that fits your play style, Jetmir or Kitt Kanto would be the way to go. The Cabaret Cacophony deck, you could put Jetmir in front of it, and he's probably a much stronger commander. It makes a lot of tokens, and then, like I just read to you, once you get 9 or more creatures, everybody's got +1 in vigilance, +1 in trample, +1 in double strike. So alone right there, Jetmir is going to be an 8/7 with all those abilities. But then all of the tokens that you've created are also going to be pumped up with those abilities, and your opponents are going to be attacking each other with the goad mechanic that's prevalent in that deck. By the way, that deck also has one of the best cards from New Campania, Grand Crescendo. So go check out my deck tech on that. That would be a very, very good, strong deck for new players to play if it fits your play style. Basically, creature beats, but it's going to be a lot of creatures and a lot of pump effects. So after that, we have got Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver, 1 black, 1 blue, and 2. Very, very strong commander. The whole precon was very, very strong. In the case of Cabaret Cacophony and the Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver decks, both very strong precons right out of the box, and you can run with the best of them with just a few changes. Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver says whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, create a 2/2 black, a zombie creature token with Decayed. Decayed, zombies can't block. When attacked, sacrifice it out of combat. And then the last line says, at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie. If you do, draw a card. Very, very strong deck out of the box. Produces a lot of zombies. And then you can sacrifice them to draw cards. And then when you put sacrifice kill effects in it, like Butcher of Malakir, or the Death Fang, or Edict of Erebos, you not only get to draw cards, but then you'll be killing your opponent's creatures as well. And it makes a lot of zombies. It's a very, very good deck. One addition that I would make would be to probably add a Wonder, which is a blue 2/2 flyer, 1 blue and 3, that says when Wonder's in the graveyard, all your creatures have flying. There's nothing more terrifying than a zombie infestation where zombies are overrunning your positions, and then now they're flying too. So Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver, very fantastic, very strong deck right out of the precon box for new players. So I'd highly recommend it. Again, a lot of these decks are for your play style, or also your whatever creatures you like. We're going to have a bunch of different tribals in here. If you're a zombie person, then Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver will work really well. Next, we've got Shorikai Genesis Engine. 1 blue, 1 white, and 2. He's a legendary artifact vehicle. Now, I went with Shorikai Genesis Engine because, again, different playstyles. This deck's going to be a little bit different than the other decks that we're going to talk about today. Today, what we're going to talk about as far as Shorikai is going to be a Shorikai Wrath version. And again, it depends on your play style, what you like to do. But Shorikai is a very, very strong deck. It's a very strong precon. And all I would recommend if you're going to go with this build is to swap some cards out and put 6, 7, 8, 10 Wrath of God effects in it, and you will kick butt. And I will tell you why. Legendary artifact vehicle. It says for him 1 and tap him, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this creature crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. Crew 8. Shorikai Genesis Engine can be your commander. So this is, again, let's say you're a mech person, you're a tech person, and you want Voltron type of builds, and so you go with this. Shorikai is a very good commander because he's super cheap and he's huge. He's an 8-ball for 4 mana once you make him a creature. But then his tap to draw 2 cards and discard a card and make a creature ability is very strong. So Shorikai Genesis Engine for the new players, very, very good deck. If it fits your play style, you could put that Voltron artifact in there. And basically what the plan is with this deck is to drop Wraths whenever you get behind and reset the game. And what happens is all of your opponent's creatures get wiped out, but your vehicles do not because they're not considered creatures. So with this deck, you're going to pump out a bunch of vehicles, and then you crew them up later and make them creatures and attack. But there's also ways to make them vehicles without crewing them up. Very, very good deck. I would highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun if it fits your play style. Next deck I'd like to talk about for new players that are very strong would be Firkraag, Cunning Instigator. He's a dragon, 1 red, blue, 3. Legendary creature dragon, flying haste. Whenever one or more dragons you control attack an opponent, goad target creature that player controls. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, if that creature had to attack this combat, you put a +1/+1 counter on Firkraag, Cunning Instigator, and you draw a card. This, again, if it fits your play style, is very strong. A couple cool things about this deck is it is Dragon Tribal. So if you're into dragons, which I am, I love dragons, this is the deck for you. But also, this deck is sneaky strong. It doesn't look like much, but go check out my gameplay video on this guy. He ended up winning the game because he's just so strong. It's a very, very strong mechanic, the goad mechanic, but then also anytime you attack and hit with a dragon, you get to goad creatures, but then whenever a creature deals combat damage that was made to attack, Firkraag gets huge. So what's going to happen is you're going to have mass effect goad spells in this deck, and then when those creatures attack and they didn't, they were made to attack, Firkraag gets huge. He gets +1 counters every time that happens. So I've seen him I've seen this guy with over 20 counters on him, and he's just taking out people with commander damage. But then also you get to play with more dragons. If you buy the pre-con, what I would recommend is to exchange more dragons. Weirdly enough, the pre-con didn't have enough dragons in it. Put 10 dragons in it, and you'll be kicking butt. A couple of dragons to put in there would be Thundermaw, Hellkite. He's good. Any haste dragons would be good to put in there. So that's another way to go. Firkraag, Cunning Instigator, fantastic. It's Dragon Tribal, and I'm telling you that goad mechanic, all kinds of ways to goad creatures in it, is very, very strong. These decks will allow you to hang with the best of them. Next deck we're going to talk about is Anhelo the Painter. He's Grixis, red, black, and blue. Legendary creature, vampire assassin, death touch. The first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn has casualty 2. He's a 1/3 creature. So I would classify Anhelo as one of the strongest, if not the strongest, commanders in this list. Again, it depends on your play style, but Anhelo the Painter is very, very strong. The way that I would build him if I was a new player is I don't think I would get the pre-con. Go check out my deck techs on Anhelo the Painter. When I opened the pre-con, but then also I did my own deck tech on him where I swapped a bunch of cards out. The way I would probably do Anhelo is I would just buy the commander and then put about 38, 40 lands in it, some mana rocks, and then I would put cheap sorcery, powerful cheap sorceries and instants in the deck, and then I would put some ways to make tokens so you could do the casualty 2 to double your spells. A Dogged Detective would work well, Blood-Soaked Champion, a Blood Gas if you can get one. Those are kind of expensive, about $20. And a Squee, And what those will do is those will give you creatures with power of 2 that you could keep reoccurring to double your big, cheap sorcery and instant bomb spells. The way I would build it, and go check out my deck tech, is I would have 6 to 8 to 10 blue sorcery spells that draw cards. That way you could just keep drawing hands and keep drawing into sorcery spells, and then double them or double the bomb sorceries like cut to ribbons or anything else like that. But then also what I would have is some token makers like Metallic Summonings, Dika, Fractal Theorist, and then Geometric Nexus, which is one of my favorite cards, an artifact for 2, and it makes you tokens. We call it Fraggle Rock because it makes fractals. And if you've got the money or the funds or a Shark Typhoon laying around, I would pick up one of those as well, and a Maniform Dragon. And basically what you do is you get Anhelo the Painter, get some cheap sorceries, get some lands, get some ways to multiply your lands with mana rocks, and then you just bomb your opponents. But then when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, those creatures and artifacts will make you big token creatures, which you can then block, attack with, and or sacrifice to double Anwell's sorcery doubling power. So there you go, another fantastic, cheap, powerful build for new players to get and easy to pilot. Next, I would get Captain Ingathrod. He's black, blue, and 3. He's a legendary creature. He's a horror pirate. Horrors you control have menace. Whenever a horror you control deals combat damage to a player, that player mills that many cards. At the beginning of your end step, choose target artifact or creature card in an opponent's graveyard that was put there from their library this turn. Put it onto the battlefield under your control. He's got a very strong defense. He's a 3/6 creature. With Captain Ingathrod, what I would do is potentially just buy the precon and do some changes in there. Put you a Toxaril in there, and then what happens is the deck's got like 40 horrors in it, and you attack with those and mill your opponents out, but then you get to take stuff out of their graveyard. That's what I would do. I would put a Firkraag in there, a Turgrid in there, or I would another thing that you could potentially do is put some tutors in there, and there's loops that you could run with Altar of Dementia, Pitiless Plunderer, Blood-Soaked Champion, or Reassembling Skeleton and Pawns of Ulamog. And with that, you can run that loop and mill out all of your opponents and win the game that way. So, again, this depends on budget and play style and what type of tribals that you may want to play with. But all of these are very strong, cheap commanders for new players. Go check out my deck tech on Captain Ingathrod. Next, very strong commander and cheap and easy to pilot. It would be Millicent, Restless, Revenant. 1 blue, 1 white, and 5. Legendary creature, Spirit Soldier. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each spirit you control flying. Whenever Millicent, Restless, Revenant, or another non-token spirit you control dies or deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So, her casting cost is blue and white and 5, but you can forget that 5. There's going to be so many spirits out at all times that you're going to be able to cast her for basically 2 mana, just for 1 blue and 1 white. This is a very strong commander, very fun, depends on your play style. Basically, again, what happens is you're going to create all kinds of spirits, but then when Millicent or another non-token spirit hits or dies, you're going to make more spirits, which is going to allow you to recast Millicent again if she gets killed, and you're going to basically overrun your opponents. This deck is a lot like Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver. They both overrun opponents with zombies or spirits, and they both came from the same round of precons. This is a very fun deck. I'm going to have to do a deck tech on this one. I haven't done one yet. I call this my Air Force One deck because there's a lot of 1/1s that fly that overrun your opponent. But what you're going to do, and it keeps allowing Millicent to be cast for only 2 mana. But what's going to happen is you're going to have ways of pumping those 1/1 spirits up or giving them protection or making them indestructible, and you're just going to overrun your opponents. It's a very strong deck, not too hard to pilot. So again, for new players, I will be making a deck tech on her very soon. One of my favorite decks. Well, what I would do for this deck is I would put a Chroma Memorial in there, which gives all your 1/1s first strike, haste, trample, and flying, but also pro-red and pro-black, or I'd put an Eldrazi Monument in there, which makes them all indestructible. Or I would add some more lords to it. What you could do is get the precon and make these additions. Magic the Gathering is my addiction. But anyway, yeah, so another fantastic, easy deck, depending on your play style, for new players to play that allow you to hang with the best of them. Next, we're going to talk about Kaalia of the Vast. So, Kaalia is one of my favorite decks, and if your play style is you like big, beefy creatures out, you like demons, dragons, and angels, well, Kaalia is the one for you, and they just reprinted her again. With the Double Masters 2022, she's Mardu, black, white, red, and 1 legendary creature, human cleric. She's so much fun, and very strong, and very cheap. All of these decks are very cheap to put together. Flying. Whenever Kaalia the Vast attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking that opponent. 2/2. Flyer. So, you know, if this is what you're into, then this is the way to go. Kaalia is probably going to be the most expensive thing in the for you to get. If you happen to get one, cool. If you have one, cool. If a friend has one, cool. Or not, I think you can get Kaalia maybe for $15 to $20. But that's going to be the cheapest. You know, that's going to be the most expensive thing that you're going to need to get in the deck. The other things that you, how you would build this is you just go find you some cheap demons, dragons, and angels, and there's a lot of them out there. You know, the most powerful ones, of course, are going to be more expensive. So you could put this deck together cheap, you know, with cheap $1 or $2 dragons, demons, or angels, and then later on switch them out as you get more funds and or crack more packs and grab more dragons, demons, or angels and change them up that way. But there's a lot of angels out there that are very good, that are very cheap, like Skirmisher Angel. Sunscorch Regent is a very cheap dragon you could put in there. So what you could do is get you a Kaalia of the Vast, put you some dollar dragons and demons in there, and away you go. Another way that you could make this deck strong would be put a Winter's Orb in it, or a Hikori Dust Drinker, which locks down your opponent's lands but doesn't affect you because you're still able to put out your creatures while even if your lands are tapped down like everybody else's. So another very, very fantastic commander that's very powerful, that's easy to pilot. Another thing I would put in that deck would be creature removal, spot removal. So next we're going to talk about Chishiro the Shattered Blade. And again, I've got a deck tech on Kaalia. Go check it out. Chishiro the Shattered Blade, also deck tech on him. He's Gruul, which would be green, red, and 2. He's a legendary creature, Snake Samurai, for 4/4. Whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1 counter on each modified creature you control. If a creature has an equipment, aura, or counters, they are considered modified, so then they get more counters on them. Again, it depends on your play style. The Chishiro, the Shattered Blade Precon's very strong. Go check out my deck tech on that one as well. You could change out 10 cards, and you could make this a very strong deck with infinite combat steps. Put you a Godo in there, or a... if you go check out my deck tech, Helm of the Host, that's what I was trying to think of. With a Helm of the Host and a Godo and other ways, Akira Battle Squad, you could put infinite combat steps in this deck and win the game that way. So, cheap, good, easy to pilot, and can hang with the best of them. Go check out my deck tech on Chishiro, the Shattered Blade. Also uses a Hellkite Charger with a Bear Umbra to make infinite combat steps. That deck has 8 to 10 ways of making infinite combat steps. Go check out my deck tech on Chishiro, the Shattered Blade. Next, Ziatora the Incinerator. He's going to be Jund, green, red, black, and 3. Legendary creature, demon, dragon. Again, you get to play with your favorite tribal with this one, demons and dragons flying. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, the Incinerator deals damage equal to that creature's player power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. Okay. Again, go check out my deck tech on Ziatora, the Incinerator. The way that you could build this is put all kinds of things that create tokens, and red and black and blue are probably the best at that. Well, white's very good as well. But anyway, go check out my deck tech on this. Basically what you do is you have token generators that you can use to attack, and then you can sacrifice them to Ziatora to fling at any target and then create 3 treasure tokens. Again, a lot of fun. This deck's a lot of fun. The way I built mine is it's got token generators to fling, but then it's got ways to tutor up for big bombs, and with all those treasure tokens that you're going to make, you can use all your treasure tokens to fuel big bombs like Crackle of Power and win the game that way. Go check out my deck tech on Ziatora, the Incinerator. But all you'd have to do is get Ziatora, get you some token generators and some cheap demons and dragons, and you've got a demon dragon tribal deck that is a lot of fun, easy to pilot, cheap, and very powerful. And that's going to be it. That's going to be 10 very powerful decks new players should get right now. These decks will allow you to run with the best of them. They're easy to pilot, and they're cheap to put together. So, I hope you like my video. If you did, hey, if you're still here and you haven't done it yet, please subscribe and hit that notification button. I love Commander. And if this is your first video that you're watching of me, go check out my deck techs and see what you think. I think you'll see that I love Commander, love talking about it, love the product, love the whole concept of it. And I'm glad that we're getting new players into the format. I want more new players, and that's why I made this video. I want to make it easier for them to get in, the transition to get in and play much easier. I don't want you to be intimidated. If you're a new player, I want you to come on in and play. We've got a saying here at the Commander's Crypt: we don't want to be just another Commander channel. We want to be a Commander community, and I truly mean that. In the future, once we get the numbers up, we're going to have classifieds. We're going to have things that we do to help each other out and animals out. So that's it. I'm going to get on out of here. This video is a little bit longer than I expected and wanted it to be, but I wanted to try to do everything I could to get new players into the game and be able to hang and run with the opponents and not be intimidated, coming into the game. That's it. We're going to get on out of here. We are leaving you. This is the Commander's Crypt from New Orleans, Louisiana. Have a wonderful weekend.